Greetings, good day. This is Coach Veronica Marie, and I'm here to help you live a healthier and a happier life. If you're new to this channel, please do subscribe, like the video, and share it. If you are a regular participant, welcome. I appreciate you so much. Your presence is very much valued by me. I entitled this video, Forgiveness is Not Always Necessary. And so that can potentially be triggering. So let me go ahead and explain what I mean right away so you can decide whether or not you want to listen. There are times where we have felt wronged by a person when they, in fact, did nothing wrong. In those cases, forgiveness is not necessary. There are times where you have done something that wasn't wrong, but you felt it was wrong. You're trying to forgive yourself, but forgiveness is not necessary. Forgiveness is not going to resolve that energy because that is not what is needed. Number one, perspective is needed. Number two, truth is needed. Number three, practice, which I call integration, is needed. So now you can decide whether or not you want to listen to what I have to say. So anytime a person is doing something that I have in my awareness, I'm going to always ask myself, is this person doing something wrong? Okay, because there are actions that are wrong, like being intentionally hurtful, but we can't really we don't really know for sure that all the time. So being intentionally hurtful is not okay. But when people do things that we perceive as hurtful, that's a different story. And this really is a spiritual practice that people who really want to elevate and ascend out of offense and triggers and boundaries and hardness, this is for people who are ready to move to the next space. So if that's not you and you still feel a little resistance to things that I'm saying in this teaching, it is well, it's okay. Take care of yourself, maybe get off the session and come back later when you feel more open. Okay. Just because you don't like something doesn't make it wrong. That's important, right? Because that alone can help you move out of a lot of unresolved energy, what we're using, we're calling it triggers, we're calling it trauma. Sometimes you are holding trauma about something and around something that is not wrong. You just didn't like it or it inconvenienced you. That's important. So if you really want to come out of some of this easily being offended state, then you ask yourself that is this really wrong? And how do we know if it's wrong or not? Number one, does it violate some human right? Right? Did they use force or manipulation? Is what they've done consistent with universal truth? Universal truth is true for everyone, not just you, right? And it's important for you to understand how your shadow works here, because if you have spaces of lack within you that you are unaware of, then you will unconsciously want others to fulfill it. And when they don't, your pattern could be to feel uncared for. Your pattern could be to feel unloved. You fill in the blank because you know your pattern more than I do. When you have some type of unresolved energy about relationships and people, when you are wondering, what does it mean for a person to love? Then when a person does something that you interpret as wrong, you're going to feel unloved. That's why I don't use that phrase, love is action, because love is not action. Love is a state of being. And love may or may not be shown through action. Okay, it may or may not, but that doesn't mean it's not love. However, it may be a connection that you're not enjoying, and that's a topic for another video. Is this person doing something wrong? So, for example, um, and again, this is for people who want to come out of feeling bothered by lots of little things often. Okay, if you like being bothered, this is not for you. If you feel that it is wrong, this is not for you. I'm trying to help someone who needs it, right? So let's say a person, it's your birthday, and a person very close to you didn't call and tell you happy birthday. In fact, they didn't even say happy birthday at all, or they said it at the end of the day. Or how about they said it only because you mentioned it? They had totally forgotten about your birthday. Well, some people feel like that's wrong and they would be highly offended. Some people may confront. Some people may go passive aggressive. What does confrontation look like? Well, you didn't call me on my birthday, right? Passive aggression would be, well, wow, I'm hearing from you now, stranger, right? Some people hold it in and become resentful. So when their birthday comes, you're going to act the same way. Or you're going to go into silent treatment or something like that. That's more passive aggressive, right? But if you want to stop doing that stuff and operate in more freedom, you got to ask yourself, has this person done something wrong? Like, is there a universal truth being violated here? The deeper question is, what within me would create problems, tension, and confusion over something that only lasts a day? Now, I'm not saying that your birthday is not important. What I am saying, if your birthday is really important to you, make sure you form some agreements around it so you can be very upfront and clear. Hey, I just want to let you know that we're friends or we're dating or whatever. And I expect you to, do X, Y, and Z on my birthday. You could do that. And that way the person could say, because if the person is like me, I might say, whoa, okay, I get that. And that is important to you. But sometimes I be forgetting. So do you think you're going to create a problem over that? Because I'm going to try not to forget. But if I do, I don't think that there needs to be problems from my end because I don't remember dates ordinarily, right? It's nothing against you. It's just a way that I am. Is that going to be a problem? Because if it is, then let's choose to interact in a different way. That way, there's no problem. And then you can be celebrated by the people who remember birthdays and make a big to do about birthdays. I don't make a big to do about birthdays, usually not even my own. So that's an example. You can make agreements ahead of time, know what you want, ask for it, see if the person can agree. Or make sure you are interacting with people who feel the same about birthdays. I know some people who love to celebrate. They love to celebrate everything, not just their birthdays, but other people's birthday, and they make it a big thing. You need people like that in your life if that's important, rather than creating offense with people who are different, burning bridges and severing relationships over some resentments that are held. Now let me put this disclaimer in. I don't think anyone is ending a relationship or severing a tie over something like this because they're deeper issues. By the time you get to the point of having a problem with not calling on a birthday or something, there's something way deeper. But this could be the thing to trigger you to move forward with what you've been wanting to do or been thinking about. Is it wrong? Is it violating universal truth? I've been in heavy, challenging conversations before, right? And let's say a person hung up on me. At one point in my life, I would be highly offended. How dare you hang up on me? and I would go into some retaliation energy. But I've since learned that sometimes people hang up the phone when they reach their capacity, right? Maybe they reached their capacity because they were about to yell and scream and say some stuff. Maybe they reached a point of emotional intensity that they could no longer handle themselves well. And maybe they were so upset and felt out of control and they hung up the phone. Maybe they did need to stop hearing what I was saying. That's not wrong. Would I say that's ideal? No. Am I saying that encouraging that behavior? No. But when it does happen, I do not want to create offense around that. This is the spiritual practice. I'm talking to you about spiritual practices because my mental health matters. Okay. Now, let's say the person did hang up. I'm not creating a problem about that because we both needed a breather. And if I didn't, I definitely would need it after that. Right. So that gives me time to reflect, to come out of the active energy of offense and really see it from a space of reality. Is this common when this person hanging up? Do they really have the ability to hold intense emotional situations? I mean, do I see them doing that well? Otherwise, what about that conversation that we were having could have potentially brought them to a space where they couldn't take anymore in that moment? Can I see it? Right. If you don't like when people hang up the phone, right? You might not know this in the beginning, or you might know it in the beginning, right? But again, you can make some agreements. And if the person breaks the agreement, you can lay out how you would behave if the agreement is broken. Or you could go through this process because people do hang up with the phone sometimes. Okay. So how are you going to perceive and move or react or respond? How is that going to assist you in elevation? Then you could decide, well, if this person commonly hangs up, then maybe we're not aligned for communication. We can't have hard conversations. So if we can't have hard conversations, what kind of relationship do I want to be in with this person? Maybe I need to be associates. Maybe I need to be friends. Maybe I need to transition into something else. But we don't need to hold on to that. So in these situations, forgiveness is not necessary because nothing was done wrong. But if you hold the need to forgive, guess what else you're holding in these particular types of cases? If you hold the need to forgive, then you're also holding this story that I've been wronged by a person when you really haven't. So you're trying to forgive something that isn't even wrong, and you're holding the story of being done wrong too. I hope this is making sense. Some people are trying to forgive themselves for things that either wasn't in their power or at their knowledge or their ability. Let's say a big one is relationships. Okay. You may have gotten into a connection that wasn't fruitful, wasn't what you wanted, and you felt like, oh, I made a mistake. I put up with so much stuff. I need to forgive myself. But you didn't know. And even if you did know, you didn't know what to do with it because there's levels to knowledge. Okay. You can know something intellectually, but not know it emotionally or not know it experientially. So when we throw around the word knowledge, understand that there's levels to it. Yes, you did know something was wrong. You may not have known exactly what, or you may have known what. But the truth is, you didn't know what to do with that. You didn't know what it meant because if you did, you would have done something. You're looking back in retrospect with your current mind, judging your old self and saying, I'm going to forgive that self. That self didn't do anything wrong but grow and be brave to take a chance. And I always use this analogy. It's like having a kindergartner. This kindergartner needs to learn basic arithmetic, beginning with 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. When I started homeschooling my children, I didn't teach them the concept of addition. They memorized addition facts first. Okay. So if they were in memorization only, where they could just repeat 2 + 2 is 4, 3 + 3 is 6, 4 + 4 is 8. If I asked them to show me why and they didn't know and I punished them, that would be unfair. That would be wrong, unreasonable, right? And then furthermore, what if I gave them some algebra problems and then they couldn't figure it out? So then I punish them for that too and talk about, well, I'm going to look over the fact that you couldn't do this algebra. That's unreasonable. They don't have the ability. It's beyond their mental construct. It's beyond their experience. Even if you take an algebra student and teach them a formula, A plus B equals B plus A. They don't necessarily know how to work that out in a word problem. They have to be taught that. You have to be taught certain things. Even if you read them in the book, you have to practice. So knowing is not wrong, okay? And knowing and not doing is not wrong. There's some things in your life that you don't need to forgive. You need to show grace for. You know what? You didn't know, but you learn, and I'm proud of you. See, this is why you keep beating up on yourself and being afraid to move forward or looking for red flags and green flags and boundaries and triggers and contraction, because forgiveness is not necessary in that situation. Grace is necessary. Also, with other people, you have to decide what is your capacity for grace. Well, if you only been getting offended, you don't have a high capacity for grace. So you might want to use that as a spiritual practice. Increase my ability to offer grace to myself and others. And that's the end of this teaching. Forgiveness is not always the answer because a lot of times there's nothing being done wrong. Now, there are other times where forgiveness is necessary, and that's a topic for another day. But even if you are experiencing that kind of scenario, you're still going to need grace for somebody. So, your personal work, I would say today, is to number one, ask, is this person really doing something wrong? And go back into some scenarios that you are still struggling with and see if that person really did something wrong. Looking after your best interests is not wrong, even when other people don't like it. I encourage you to make choices for your best interest, even if other people don't like it. Well, the same is true for them. They should make choices according to their best interests, even if you don't like it. This is a universal truth. And they're free to do it. That's the truth. And it's not wrong. But if someone made a choice that you didn't like because it didn't benefit you, you could judge them as being selfish and inconsiderate. Or you could realize that we're all doing this, right? And no, I didn't like it. And I could decide how I want to align with that person. But not liking it doesn't make it wrong. And liking it doesn't make it right. That's it, y'all. Ponder on that. My name is Coach Veronica Marie. I offer one-on-one coaching from my website at veronicamarie.com. I have an ebook on my website. You can get that and start your self-work right away in a practical sense. And connect with me on social media. Just type hashtag Veronica Marie. I should pop up. And that's it for the day. Y'all have a beautiful morning and engage in your spiritual practice. Okay, later.